What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Now, today I'm looking at r/MaliciousCompliance, a subreddit I haven't been on in honestly over a year, but you guys the other day were requesting this one specifically. So here I am, 6 malicious compliance stories. And they're all fantastic, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if you guys know this, but I actually record my introductions after I've read all the stories, just so I can tell you a little bit about what's going to happen. And let me tell you, I need to get on this subreddit more often because the quality of post in this is phenomenal. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get into the first of 6 malicious compliance stories. Drop a like on this one if you're excited for the return of this subreddit, and comment down below if you want to see more. Here we go. Boss accused me of bullying, so I requested punishments. Years ago, I worked in a semi-public sector job as part of a successful team helping make life easy for local businesses. Our team boss took a good job in the private sector, and a new boss was recruited from a decent organisation similar to ours in a different part of the country. She worked compressed hours, Monday to Thursday, and was off on Fridays. A month or two in, and although the new boss was quite particular about things being done her way and had upset a couple of my colleagues by criticising their work, I'd had no problems with her. We had a team meeting where the boss said that our performance wasn't good enough. We were arguably the best in the country though, and that she wanted to be more involved in what and how we did everything to ensure better quality, and so we should copy her into every client email so that she could comment as needed before we sent another reply. Although this seemed inefficient, nobody argued, and I just asked her if I should wait until Monday for her to comment on any client emails received on a Friday. I can't remember exactly what she said, but at the end of the meeting she asked me to stay behind, and then told me in a heated tone that my question was, quote, bullying behaviour, that it was unprofessional to ask that question in front of the team, and said that my actions were the sort of thing that HR would see as grounds for dismissal, and that I should be very careful in future. Talk about an overreaction. I told her I understood, and we returned to our desks, where I wrote up every single detail of the entire meeting and interaction and sent it to the head of HR, with the explanation that as bullying was very serious and may not be reported by the victim, I felt duty bound to report myself. I also laid it on pretty thick about being appalled by my unprofessional behaviour and the fact that my career was likely at risk, and I clearly had a desperate need for training and discipline to fix my dangerous ways. I also copied in my union rep. That is so good. Within a day, me, my union rep, and my boss were with the head of HR, who, being a by-the-book professional, could find no indication of bullying or justification for my fears of being an unprofessional bully in need of re-education. I was actually asked to leave the meeting. My union rep stayed in, and I don't know what was said, but within 6 weeks, my boss was gone. And that same week, my weak and ineffective but likeable big boss called me in to thank me, as he'd wanted to get rid of her but hadn't known how. Unreal. Okay, this is actually brilliant. I got a little bit worried when OP said that you understood after your boss came over and said those ridiculous things to you after that meeting, but then very quickly I understood why you said that. Someone's commented, I love it when they hand me their rope, and yeah, that is kind of the thing, and it makes me think about something that I hear quite a lot, especially with employing people. You've got to be very careful who you employ, because once you've employed somebody, it can be extremely hard to get rid of them. And clearly that is what your big boss was referencing, saying thank you to you for giving him an opportunity to get rid of her. Supervisor told me to stop reminding him about an overdue task. So I stopped, and he missed the deadline. I work as a project coordinator. Basically, I just keep track of what everyone's supposed to be doing and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. My supervisor, James, is fine at pretending he's on top of stuff, but the dude forgets everything unless someone's reminding him. So I usually give him a heads up when things are due. Like last week I said, hey, just a reminder, that report's due Friday. He looks at me and goes, I don't need to be babysat. I know what's on my list. Alright then, you got it. So I keep my mouth shut. No reminders, no check-ins. I let him be the expert. Friday comes, nothing. Monday morning, he's suddenly in panic mode because the director is asking where the heck the report is. He turns to me like, why didn't you remind me? I just said, well, you told me not to. Now he thanks me every time I send a reminder. I guess we're back to babysitting, but at least he asked nicely. Okay, a few interesting things in this story. Now, I've never worked in like a big company before, so I don't really know that a project coordinator whose job literally is just to coordinate was much of a thing. But it does seem like a glorified babysitter, and I would say that seems unnecessary, but then clearly it's not, because you have people like this that aren't capable of keeping up with the work they have to do. I mean, I would have thought that was like a quite important part of your role, not just obviously doing the work itself, but also knowing what work you need to do and when. But I suppose a project coordinator, obviously that does more than just babysit, does make sense. But him then saying after this, not, oh, okay, I need to be more diligent with my deadlines and knowing what I've got to do for when, but actually, okay, look, you remind me in future. Is that not a bit poor? I don't know. It's different for me. You guys let me know in the comments down below. But if I forget a deadline, that's on me. And like, I've only got myself to blame. I don't understand really, but fair enough. Good malicious compliance. That is what I will definitely say. I think the term babysitting here is confusing me. I think that's the thing, because like the idea of a project coordinator, I completely understand. But the idea of somebody going over to someone and saying, hey, just reminding you, you've got a deadline on Monday, I don't really understand, because I think you should be able to do that. But yes, not babysitting, project coordination, of course, that makes a lot of sense. I'd quite like it, to be fair, if somebody kept on top of everything that I needed to do. I do struggle with that sometimes. I also struggle with waffling. Let's carry on. Now for our third malicious compliance story. I should cancel on my end? No problem. I booked accommodation 2 months in advance for St. Patrick's weekend in Dublin. It was a fairly ancient B&B, but for €115, it was a place to sleep and the cheapest option for the busiest weekend of the year in Dublin. It was one double bed for me and a buddy to share. It was pay on arrival. Now, 3 weeks before the stay, the accommodation manager messaged me on the app I booked the stay on, telling me there's a problem. I can no longer stay, and to cancel on my side immediately. No apology, let alone help offered by them. This was followed by multiple phone calls daily, along with text messages in a harassing nature saying I need to cancel now so I can get my money back. Once again, it was pay on arrival. I didn't answer the calls or messages telling me to cancel. Something about it felt off, so I checked the listing for the night I was supposed to stay, and it just so happens the accommodation had been listed again for double the price. Likely, the manager realised St. Patrick's weekend was a cash grab. Maybe not immediately, but at the property manager's request, I simply rang booking.com and told them I'd like to cancel my booking. The customer service rep asked why I was cancelling. I explained in detail all the above to her, and things took an unexpected turn for the property manager. Ultimately, the rep agreed the property was acting in an unfair manner, and the solution was that booking.com would find me accommodation within 1 kilometre. Originally, they tried to get me to stay way outside of the city, but I wasn't having it, of where I intended to stay. The original property would then be liable to cover any difference in cost. Now here's the good part. Finding accommodation 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day in Dublin is about as difficult as trying to light a fire with flint and steel in the rain. Near impossible. Everything within a 1 kilometre range was booked out, except for a well-known 4-star hotel. The room alone cost €350 per night and had 2 double beds, a much bigger room, and was in a much nicer location. The customer rep had to get it cleared by her team lead, so I just sat on hold doing chores for 25 minutes. Eventually, they came back and said it was all signed off on, and they'll send me a special link. What a treat. I gladly accepted their compromise. This, in turn, meant the property owner that tried to force me to cancel on my end was now indebted €235, and we got a massive upgrade for the same price we originally had. I had to pay the $350 up front, and I had to keep receipts and show proof of payment to the booking partner after our stay, but I got my refund of €235 the following week. Very interesting here, because the whole point is, if these people cancelled on you, I think then they would have to sort of, either pay a fine or deal with potentially your complaints. This thing, to be fair, has happened to me multiple times in the past with Airbnbs, hotels, etc. when these places don't realize that the prices should really be inflated for events that are happening in the city or whatever that these places are in. Then they realize after you've already booked and they just bump the price up and they cancel on you. I mean, that has happened to me before, so I don't really know how they get away with that. But this is much better where they can't cancel on you. And the fact that they have the audacity to ask you to cancel on them is just ridiculous, because that's the only way they'll get around it and then be able to bump the prices up. But yeah, very, very poor technique. Shouldn't be allowed at all, especially this close to the trip. But yeah, overall, getting punished for bad practice like this is exactly what I want to see. And it's also amazing that you guys got a great upgrade for free. You want me to be on time? Okay, down to the minute. The timekeeping system at my job runs on a 15-minute increment schedule. Basically, if you clock in during the first 7 minutes of the increment, it rounds you backwards to the start of that segment. If you're in the last 7 minutes, it rounds you forward to the end of the segment. For example, you clock out at 4:52. Congrats, the system says you left at 4:45. Now, if you clock in and out multiple times a day, like for lunch, that's 4 punches and potentially up to 28 minutes lost or gained, depending on where you land in those increments. So sorry, if you clock out at 4:53, in effect, you've clocked out 15 minutes later than if you'd clocked out in reality a minute before. That's the dumbest system ever. Anyway. Shortly after I started, I began getting flooded with emails about being short a few minutes on my timesheet, and I was told I had to submit PTO, even though I worked full 8-hour days, sometimes more. It didn't matter that I was physically at work. If the system said I was short, I had to burn time off. So I started paying attention, really close attention. Here's the twist. My employer doesn't pay overtime in cash, but they do give you 1.5 times time off if you earn it. So 1 hour of overtime is 1.5 hours of PTO. With some strategic clocking in and out, always landing on the helpful side of the 15-minute window, I've gotten good at squeezing out those 28 minutes extra a day. That adds up to 140 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes of overtime a week, which when covered at 1.5 times becomes 3.5 hours of paid time off every week, all for doing exactly what they asked, watching the clock very closely. Thanks for the free time off. Wow. Well, I said it during reading there, and I have to say it again. This is the dumbest system ever. Is your technology not capable of just putting these things in by the minute or even by the second? Like every 15 minutes? That just doesn't make any sense. If it's like automated technology, that makes no sense. So I imagine what you were doing here was staying for an extra minute, as in signing out that extra minute later to make it seem as if you had been there for actually another 7 minutes on top of that. So for example, if you clock out at 4:53, then it would say that you clocked out at 5. So in effect, you are working for another 7 minutes there. And you're not really you're not doing anything wrong here, because you are saying you clocked out at 4:53 and that is when you did clock out. It just says that you left at 5. So yeah, you're gaining 28 minutes per day of work that you haven't actually done. So in effect, 140 minutes of overtime a week. So you're getting 3.5 hours of paid time off every week for just logging out like a minute later. That's so dumb. So over the course of a year, 3.5 hours times 52 for 52 weeks is 7.5 days. So just by punching out a minute later 4 times a day, you're gaining an extra 7.5 days of annual leave per year. That's absolutely insane. I mean, listen, you guys put in the comments down below how much annual leave you get, how much vacation you get. But in the UK, it's pretty normal to get what, like 25-ish days, roughly. Maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. So you're getting like 25% or 20% more annual leave just by using this silly technique. That's class. I wouldn't have made that Reddit post. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't have done, on the off chance that your boss sees that. You've got to keep that to yourself. That's an insane amount of time you're getting for free. Now for our 5th post. Take the chairs away from our work area. We're going to F this place up. I work for a major US airline for a long time and at several different airports. There's an area behind the baggage counter where the bags get sorted for their respective flights after they've been checked. We're on our feet most of the time, but we each have chairs at our workstations so we can sit and rest for a minute when there's a lull in bags coming down. Every few years, there'll be a hot trash new manager who's going to turn this airport around and make it the best performing one in the system, and they all seem to have the same idea. Take away the chairs so the agents are always standing at the belt. Now, the agents in this area are generally on the senior side, as it's indoors and out of the elements. We've done the job for a while. We know how to do the job efficiently, and we really do our best to avoid F-ups. But as long as human error is a factor, there will always be some. Taking our chairs does nothing but annoy us. Their BS excuse usually is framing it as a safety issue, a tripping hazard. So that's where we start. Smaller or oddly shaped bags get sent down in a plastic tub so they don't jam the belt. Maybe you've seen them. We take them off the belt and stack them up on the ground for someone to come by and collect. But not anymore. We let them pile up on the belt, making it a giant pain in the butt for the poor idiot collecting them. They're then complaining constantly to the manager. We say, sorry boss, they're a tripping hazard on the ground. Next, we start following the rules. Our employee handbook lays out very clearly what the company's expectations for us are in our job duties. We're only expected to pull one bag per minute and take bags out no later than 20 minutes before the flight departs. Maybe you've guessed already, but those expectations are nowhere near good enough to actually complete these tasks. So by the company's own rules, we were all going well beyond what was expected of us. So we start giving them the bare minimum, one bag per minute, 20 minutes prior. My manager was annoyed. He and the supervisors were throwing bags, and us being unionized, we documented and grieved every single time it happened. And the company a few days later had to pay out several thousand to agents for covered work. Delays across the board. 1,500 bags missed that day. The next morning, the chairs were back in their spots, and we continued as normal. And afterwards, nobody would give that manager the time of day. A lot of passengers got screwed over that day, but we were working exactly to the rules our company had given us, so you can blame the airline and not the agents. The handbook was changed after a while, but only extending it to 35 minutes prior instead of 20. It's still one bag per minute the last time I looked. I was lucky enough to be a part of 3 of these events over the years, but this was the most satisfying. Now, this is one of those stories that I've seen a lot of times before, not necessarily just on malicious compliance. In fact, across the whole of Reddit for all the years I've been doing this, where be it entitled people or just people who are in some sort of position of power or something like this, they'll do one thing which really isn't necessary at all to potentially, in a non-human world, if you're just looking at like pure efficiency and numbers, may increase some metric by 0.01%, but in reality it's just going to annoy people that are working for you, and that is going to have massive ramifications, as you've seen. It's like these people are clearly working so hard anyway, and they're very good at their jobs, and they know what they're doing. Why anger them for a potential tiny marginal gain? Also, surely you know that they are producing at a level that actually isn't asked of them, and they're going above and beyond what they've actually been set out to do in your rules, in your handbook. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't understand why managers, bosses, whatever, people don't go, okay, yeah, perhaps we could squeeze out a tiny little bit more of X by introducing this. But the human side, no. What's the point, first of all? And secondly, people are just going to get annoyed. I don't get it, but well done to you guys for sticking to the rules. Now for our final malicious compliance post of this episode. You want to review every client interaction? Perfect. Your inbox is about to blow up. I've been working at this small marketing agency for just over a year now. It's my first real job after college, and I've been thrilled to have actual clients and responsibilities. Well, I was thrilled until we got a new account manager, Debbie. Debbie came from one of those corporate mega agencies where apparently they micromanage the living daylights out of everyone. From day one, she had concerns about my communication style with clients. Mind you, I'd been praised by these same clients for being responsive and helpful. Last month, after I sent what I thought was a perfectly normal email to our biggest client about a small scheduling change, Debbie called an emergency meeting. From now on, I need to approve all client communications before they go out, she announced with that fake smile managers use when they're being unreasonable but pretending they're helping you. Everything. Emails, phone call notes, text messages, meeting agendas, send them to me first for review. When I pointed out that this would slow down our response times, she just waved her hand dismissively. It's about quality control. Better to be right than fast. Fine. You want all communications? You got it. I started that very afternoon. Every single thing. If a client asked what time a call was scheduled, I drafted an email response and sent it to Debbie, awaiting your approval on this time confirmation. If a client texted asking for a quick file, I'd screenshot it and email Debbie. Please approve my response to this text message. I even created a special folder in my drafts called Awaiting Debbie's Approval, and I set up an automated counter. By the end of day 1, I sent her 17 approval requests, and by the end of week 1, it was over 100. The best part, I stopped answering my phone when clients called. Instead, I'd let it go to voicemail. Then email Debbie. Client X called about Y. My proposed response is attached. Please approve. After about 2 weeks, Debbie was drowning. She'd fallen behind on approving my communications, which meant that clients weren't getting responses. They started escalating to her directly, which doubled her workload. The breaking point came when our biggest client emailed both of us complaining about delays. I responded to the client with, I've forwarded your concerns to Debbie for approval of my response. Once approved, I'll get back to you promptly. The next morning, Debbie stopped by my desk, looking exhausted. I think we need to adjust our approval process, she said, trying to maintain her corporate dignity. Moving forward, just use your judgment for routine communications. Only send me things that involve project scope, timeline changes, or budget discussions. Are you sure? I asked innocently. I have about 30 draft responses waiting for your review right now. She visibly cringed. That won't be necessary anymore. I've been happily sending emails without approval for 2 weeks now. Debbie barely makes eye contact in the hallway, and honestly, that's fine by me. The best part, my quarterly review is coming up, and all those approval emails are documented proof that I've been trying my absolute best to follow company protocol. Sometimes, malicious compliance is the best teacher. Now this is just micromanaging to the nth degree, and it's completely unnecessary. And yeah, Debbie's had her reward there for being pedantic and trying to get into the minutiae and sort of overmanage, control all her employees and make sure everything's 100% correct. Now this is something that I don't fully know with what I do. I've just got Steve-O who works alongside me on this channel. But I know from hearing other people that letting other people do their jobs is the best thing you can do. Hiring people that are good at their jobs and then just saying, you know what, I trust you to do the job. I hired you for a reason. I'll leave you to it, and letting them get on with it is the most efficient way of doing things. Like trying to micromanage not only stretches you massively, as you can see here. Debbie can't have been able to even do her own job well at all because of all this stuff, but also just annoys all your employees who you are micromanaging. So no point, but hopefully Debbie has learned her lesson now. I kind of doubt it, but you never know. Maybe she has. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of r/malicious_compliance. It's been a while since I've been on this subreddit, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really hope you guys did as well. If you want more malicious compliance right away, this is my most recent upload. As you can see, quite a long time ago. Click on it. See how my face might have changed from that episode. But yeah, as I said, get in the comments down below. Let me know if you want to see more. I want to give you guys more because I really enjoyed that. Subscribe to the channel for daily Reddit content at 8 PM GMT time, UK. And I'll catch you tomorrow.